Boop. And he turned, he's nosing on it. Got him.
Got him.
Yes, sir. My drag is very loose. That's bigger than 2.
Yeah.
Oh.
Scoreable bass.
That's a scoreable bass, baby. Well, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Tyler's Real Fishing. Today we're going to talk about spring fishing. Oh my gosh, I tightened my drag too much. Why spring fishing is the best, and why you need to get out in the water more if you are not already. Gorgeous. Woo! And hopefully this video can help you guys catch fish like this. Well, how's it going, everybody? My name is Tyler Anderson, and it is my goal on this channel called TRF to teach you guys how to become better bass anglers. You know, no matter where you live in the country. I live here in Texas. I don't care where you guys live. I hope this channel can be instructional for you guys. And make sure you guys stay to the end. I have some big fish catches coming up. You know, I'm going to talk about spring fishing and why I think it is the best. So stay to the end for a few fish catches like this one. Got him. Yes. There we go. Now here in Texas, it is springtime, and I just wanted to sit down and explain, like I want to do kind of every season of the year, and explain why I think certain seasons are better than others. And in this video here is directed at the best bass season of the year. I don't care if you're in Texas, you're Florida, you're Washington, or New York, the spring is the best time to go catch bass. Now, a lot of you guys may see the topic of this video and think that this is a no-brainer. You say, duh, bass fishing's best in the spring. Everybody knows that. But in all my travels and a lot of people I've met and people that I've fished around both on the bank and here on the bass boat, I've realized that a lot of people actually don't know that, and so they don't fish any differently in the spring than they do at any other time of the year. So I wanted to sit down and explain to you guys why the spring is different, why I think the spring is the best time of the year to catch not only numbers of bass, but the biggest bass of your life. And of course, I'm gonna go over some tips to help you guys do it for yourself. So let's jump in. So the first topic that I have to talk about is the bass life cycle. Now, bass really separate their lives into about 8 different stages, and I'm really gonna only talk about 4 or 5, and that is the pre-spawn, the spawn, the summer, the fall, and the winter. Now, of course, you can put any sort of categories in between. You can say the early fall, the late winter, whatever you wanna call it, but I like to focus on those 5, and you can even cut out pre-spawn and kind of put that into the winter, into the spring category, but all the seasons are different. I see people walking the bank all the time fishing a pond, and they are not fishing any differently in the fall or in the summer than they are in the winter or the spring. And that is the first mistake that a lot of anglers make, especially a lot of young or inexperienced anglers. They think the fish are gonna react the same way all year round because they don't understand the bass life cycle. So in my experience, fish only care about 2 things. That is, or actually 3 things. They care about eating, mating, and not being eaten themselves. That's really the 3 things that I think fish care about. Very similar to some humans, I think, nowadays. And in the pursuit of those 3 things, the bass react basically the same way no matter the species, whether you're talking largemouth, smallmouth, or spotted bass, or any mixture in between. I think all bass pretty much react the same in terms of where they go during times of the year and the ways they feed up or don't feed up depending on what mood they are in. So let's start with the bass's lifestyle during the summer. You know, the summer months, it's gonna be hot, so the bass have to go either super shallow to feed in the morning and the evening, and then they have to go deep and sit there all day long because it's too hot. They can't sit out there all day long, especially here down in the south. Now, transitioning to the fall, you're gonna have bass kind of moving up and down from deep to shallow, shallow to deep, sometimes throughout the day. It could be an hour or 2 window where the fish move up and feed on bait fish, crawfish, whatever it is. But I found the bass are not necessarily always shallow during the fall. They kind of might be more during that mid-range depth. Now, during the winter time, those fish are probably going to be doing what they did similar to the summer, except they're probably not going to come shallow at all during the winter time because the water's just too cold, and there's not really any necessity for them to unless they have the sunlight pops out and starts warming up some of the bank lines, whether it's rocks or wood that soaks in heat. And so those are the 3 seasons that I think are inferior to the spring, and that is because in the spring, the water is warming up. Those fish are done sitting out deep, and there is a mass migration of not just the bass, but the entire ecosystem migrates to the shallows. Just think about it. When you guys are at a campsite with your friends and somebody starts the bonfire, and a few people kind of start to congregate there, but as soon as that sun goes down, the temperature drops, everybody goes to the bonfire. And the reasoning for that is because people want to be around warmth. And if people want to be around warmth, I can guarantee you that fish want to be around warmth as well. So now that we have kind of a grand overview of what the spring is, you know, a mass migration of every single bait fish, plankton, bass, any sort of predator fish, any sort of prey, all of those move shallow for various reasons. And I'm gonna kind of go over some of the main forage species for bass, why they move shallow, and why the bass themselves move shallow as well. So most times of the year, I'm telling you guys how to catch bass based on where their bait is going, where their prey fish is going. But during the spring, bass are a little bit focused on that in the pre-spawn because they want to feed up to get ready for the spawn. And that is why I love the spring, because most fish in your lakes and ponds have an urge within them to spawn. They want to mate, they want to pair up, they want to, you know, create babies for the future generations of their lake. I don't think their brains go that deep, but they do want to spawn. It's just it's a natural, instinctual thing. And so those bass have to be shallow to spawn. I know smallmouth and spotted bass can spawn a little bit deeper, from 10 to 20 feet, oftentimes even shallower than that. I know in New York, the smallmouth are spawning in like 2 feet of water. But oftentimes, those fish have to move shallower in general. So your shallow might be 10 to 20 feet if you're smallmouth or spotted bass fishing. Your shallow for largemouth might be 6 inches of water. You know, those fish, depending on the species and where you live in the country, are going to move to different depths, but they are going to move to whatever shallow is for you. And so I see a lot of people, I can think, you know, 2 days ago I was bank fishing and I was bed fishing, and I was quickly walking the bank to look for any fish that had moved up on beds or were sitting on the grass line right off the bank. Because I know this time of the year, water's warming up, those fish want to come up and spawn, and we had our first full moon. If you guys don't know much about bed fishing, I'll have a whole bunch of videos linked down below to help you guys out with that as well. But the full moon prompts those fish to want to spawn, and so I was looking for bedfish and I was catching bedfish, and people around me had no clue what was going on. They were literally casting their Texas rigs, whatever they're throwing, out in the middle of the pond, just like they do at all times of the year. And so that's just what I want to tell you guys. Springtime is the best time of the year because almost all of the fish in your ecosystem will at some point throughout the 3 months you guys have for your spring, wherever you live, they're gonna move shallow. And it is your best opportunity to catch a bunch of fish that are hungry and dumb, and also the biggest fish of your life. You know, I think the reasoning for why big fish are caught deep is because that's where they live. But in the spring, the big fish especially have an urge to go spawn, and so they're gonna move up shallow, they're gonna mate with the males, and they're gonna pop back out deep. They're not gonna be up there for very long, but the opportunity to catch those big ones when they're the most hungry and the most stupid is gonna be when it is springtime. And so you may ask, Tyler, what are some signs that spring is here? You know, we may have spring season on the calendar where it's technically spring or technically winter. When does spring actually arrive? And in my experience, spring arrives when the water gets to 60 degrees. I think 60 to 70 is your prime bed fishing water temperature. You know, when the fish want to get up there and get on the beds and mate. I think the 60-degree range is best for that. Maybe the high 50s is really good for your reaction bait. It's kind of the end of the pre-spawn. I'd say high 50s to low 60s. Even into the low 70s or mid 60s into the low 70s is the best springtime temperature. You know, you can also see the flowers blooming, the cottonwood trees are blooming. There's a lot of nature that happens during the springtime, and that is oftentimes a great indication that not only is nature changing, the bass are changing as well, and that means big bass. So the springtime is really a great time just to go out and experiment with things. You know, you're gonna have a lot more fish up shallow, which means that your likelihood of catching a fish, even if you're not as experienced of an angler, is gonna be higher. So if you need to gain confidence, throwing a Texas rig, throwing a jerkbait, so the springtime is the best time to do that, and it is one of those times of the year that anybody can go out there with your bass boat or on the pond. You can beat the bank and you can catch fish. There's not many times in the year, especially the summer and the winter, when you can go out there and literally throw a bait right up against the bank and catch fish, but in the springtime, you can. I will have some of my favorite spring baits linked below in the description. As always, I have tackle linked there for you guys to check out. I never want you guys to watch these videos and feel uninformed or unprepared, so I always have any information you guys need. Make sure you guys shop for tackle using those links. It helps me out a ton. But I think that's about it. You know, I just wanted to sit down and tell you guys to get off YouTube and go catch some fish, because springtime is here. And if you're watching this video at a different time of the year, springtime is coming soon. And so just get out there and catch fish. I never want to tell you guys to not watch YouTube, because my job is to teach you guys how to catch fish here on YouTube. But it is an awesome time for you guys to go out there and make memories with your friends and family. And so, like I promised, here's a few fish catches of some awesome springtime bed fishing with my buddy Alton Jones Jr. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. of TRF. Will he get it? Will Alton Jr. catch this fish? Oh, yes, he did.
How about that timing?
Biggins.
Ding.
Will he get it? Oh, gosh. She got it? Oh, Biggin. Oh, Biggin, get him up in here. Yes, sir. Heck yeah.
Look at that one. It's a big male.
I know.
A big male.
4-pound male.
Yes, sir.
Let's go.
Nice.
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 Nice. Alton Jr. stealing my fish. Nice. All right, folks. Sorry I wasn't recording that. I flipped up in there, got a backlash, and I was like, maybe there's a fish there.
Don't worry. I got it all.
And I pull out. Okay, you got it all?
Yeah.
And Alton's like, I think he's got your bait. And I set the hook, and it's bigger. Not a giant. I know. Ouch.
That's cool.
Score tracker update. Oh, 265.
What is that, like a 2.9? Is that about a 2.9?
Yeah, about a 2.9.
About a 2.9.
About a 2.9. Thank you, buddy. For eating on the first flip. That's always ideal. There we go. Bring it in here. Yes, sir. Ah. Little fish. Love it. Thank you, buddy. I think it's like paralyzed.
Hey, he's weird.
Yeah. This is a special one. We'll let Mr. Special Bass go back. There we go. Come on. Come on. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Woohoo. Thanks for the tips, big boy. Oh, you weren't recording.
I was.
Okay.
Well, I didn't get to the end.
Okay. That's not a bad fish, folks. Springtime fishing at its finest, like I talked about. This is one of the best times of the year to get yourself out in the outdoors with some good buddies.
What's up?
The coronavirus gives us a great reason to get outside.
It's Corona time.
It's Corona time. That's a beautiful 3-pounder here in Texas. Here in East Texas, the fish are nice and chunky dunky. That's a male too. He's peeing. There's a bed in here that I literally cannot get my bait. Oh, there we go. Got him. Yes. There we go. Bring it in. Yeah. Let's go. There's 20-pound Seagar and VizX for you. Alrighty. Saw that fish literally way up there in the trees on a bed. Took about 30 flips to finally get my Ocho in there. And I did. Beautiful. That's awesome. See you, buddy.